And I'm so happy to be here today with David Taylor-Klaus. David is in Atlanta, and we were just going over all of the Atlantans that we both know. So shout out to Jody Hirsch, Shira Miller, and I'm sure there are many others.
More overlap to be discovered.
Yeah, so we're live right now on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We are on YouTube, and I think that's it. But we see the chat here. I have the chat stream pulled up. So if you have any questions, if you have anything to say to us, let us know, and we will answer you, pretty much in real time. So for those of you out there, for those of you watching, let us know where you're watching from. We're representing up and down the East Coast right now. I'm in Brooklyn. David's in Atlanta. Anybody else from either of those two states or anywhere else in the world, I would love to hear. Last week we had somebody from Australia watching, which was pretty cool. So yeah. How's the weather where you are right now, David?
I don't know. I haven't been outside in weeks.
Oh.
No. Hurricane Zeta is starting to hit. So we're at the very beginning of 3 days of torrential downpour. So
gotcha.
We're entrenched.
Yeah. Well, stay safe out there. And I am just gonna quickly go over to my LinkedIn and make sure the connection is indeed working. With Mercury is in retrograde now, and we had some issues with the restream thing, so I'm on Zoom right now. So I just want to make sure that this works. All right.
Getting all the links to work.
Do you see it? Do you see it on my profile, by the way?
I did not yet.
Did not. Okay. All right.
Does not mean it's not there.
I want to see if it's on my Facebook, because I don't see it either.
Okay, it says custom live streaming. Oh, because you're linked to Restream. Got it.
Yeah. It's a thing.
It's the thing. I do not see it there yet. I don't see it on YouTube yet.
Okay, well, it's saying we're live. Okay, I see you now.
On LinkedIn?
It says sending data. So give me 1 second and I'm gonna reconnect.
As you wish.
And then we will be live.
Yeah, the last Coffee with Entrepreneurs I see is Thomas Salt.
Yeah.
I don't see this one yet.
All right, we are online on LinkedIn. Yay.
Yay.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Hello, everybody. For real this time. Hello. It is Wednesday, October 28th, and we are on LinkedIn. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. This is Coffee with Entrepreneurs. Today I'm here with David Taylor-Klaus. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Marie. Nice to be here.
It's so great to talk with you, and so great to finally meet you. We know a lot of the same people. You're, of course, in Atlanta. So shout out to Jody Hirsch, Shira Miller, and I'm sure we'll discover lots of other connections in there.
More to come.
For those of you who are watching, please let us know where you're watching from. And, I love to see sort of the international the international audiences that we sometimes get. Last week we had somebody from Australia watching, and people from all up and down the East and West Coast. So let us know that, and also let us know how you take your coffee. Today I am drinking a latte from Dunkin' Donuts. I usually end up getting something a lot fancier, but today I was in a little bit of a rush. So David, welcome. How do you take your coffee?
Black and bitter. And when I
Ooh.
say that in a restaurant in front of our youngest, our 19-year-old, he always adds, like your sense of humor. So black and bitter.
Wow. All right. So the joke is usually black like my soul, but he
Right.
says your
He's,
sense of humor.
he's a little nicer than that when we're in public, not in private.
That's hilarious. Well, awesome. So great to have a virtual cup of coffee with you today.
Yeah, you as well.
So you are the author of Mindset Mondays, and you also have the Mondays podcast. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's Jody's fault. I'm glad you gave her a shout out today. It's actually Jody's fault. I did something cool years ago with my business cards. There are 50 different backs on my business cards, and they each have a different quote. I'm sort of a quote nerd, right?
Oh,
Well, I keep them here. They're all over, right?
yeah.
And I was talking to Jody that I sort of wanted to amp up my visibility, but I wanted to get more facile with speaking to any topic through the lens of my point of view and doing it off the cuff. And she
Mm-hmm.
said, okay. And Facebook Live was being super prioritized by Facebook at that point. So she said, okay, pick up one of your cards, flip on Facebook Live, and just wax poetic for 10 minutes and see what happens.
Mm.
Ooh, okay, that made me super uncomfortable. So that meant I was supposed to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jody went on to describe a whole bunch of things like, oh, yeah, and then it could be a series of blogs, it could be a brilliant book, and then it would be this and this and that. And I just heard ... I
Yeah.
stopped listening after the video part, right? So I was in my head committed to doing a year-long video series. Then people started showing up.
Wow.
And then people started interacting during the live broadcast. And then they started interacting in between. And we started a little Facebook group for 1,000 folk. And so people have gotten super involved with it. And then I started to enjoy it. And it was more than just the point of view. I started to uncover a lot about what I believed about mindset and how fundamental it was to, change your lens, change your world.
Mm-hmm.
And started getting really engaged. And then I started paying attention to the rest of what Jody had put in this marketing plan. And then the end of the year comes. I'm like, okay, I don't want to stop. I want to keep going. And the
Right.
audience wants to keep going. So I just did episode 140 on Monday. So it's been going for 2.5 years. Or Groundhog Day will be 3 years. Right? and then I sort of got into the hell do I know about writing a book? When I've got a book, but this one felt like it was going to be more significant, more substantial, more important. And I started putting all this weight on it. I was like, dude, I want to do this. I really did not want to do it. And I realized that what I didn't want to do was do something I didn't know how to do. I like doing things that I'm already good at or
Sure.
that I can get good at quickly. And so this was really fanning the flames of that. And I was like, no. So I did something that I'm not very good at. I asked for help, and then I accepted it. And I brought a friend of mine in who's also a trained certified masterful coach. And Laurie came in and helped me collect all the content and scrape even more out of my head and create a book out of this.
Mm.
And what we've done is collected 52 of the episodes. And not just my learning and my concepts and my theories about mindset and what I've learned through my practice and through this year, but also learning from the community, what we've gotten that people's experience has taught them. And that's included in the book. And then we built a rewire framework, which is a tool that's designed to help people take the learning from the book out into their world and make it real.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of it just being shelfware. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my books are shelfware. Read it, skimmed it, not even read it, like the title and like the concept, but didn't really embed the learning in my world. Well, the rewire framework is designed to keep that from happening. You can take the learning from a chapter and then spend some time with the prompts that are in the book for each chapter and take that out into your world and make the learning meaningful and lasting.
That's fantastic. I love that this grew out of 50 quotes.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple. It sounds so, like, oh, why? It's like, and you're telling the story. I'm like, why didn't I think of that? But the truth is, and what I love about it is that, something as simple as, the 5 words behind you, achieving more requires becoming more, right? That's something that can absolutely change your mindset.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about quotes is it surfaces space for a conversation. It's not the quote itself that's so magical. It's what that triggers in the conversation that's available because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about the way this book was created, the content was already done.
Yeah.
The quotes were there, the blurbs that I put out for each episode, the 15-minute conversation that we had, and all the feedback that came in around it. Lacing that all into a thread in the book was a fascinating process. But the book, not to minimize what Lori and I did, but the book wrote itself.
Yeah.
So for what I want to scream to everybody out there is, if you have the idea of writing a book, locking yourself away on the mountaintop for 3, 6, 12 months to write something, that's not, my opinion, worst bloody way to do it.
Yeah.
Look at what you've been creating already. Pull together the intellectual capital that you've created over time, the articles, the conversations, the speeches, the presentations, the blogs, you name it. Look at what you've already created and look what's already there. So many of us have just a mountain of content that we could use to write a book
Yep.
with, but we don't.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And those of us who work with knowledge, right, or those of us who are in the coaching or consulting fields, we're already doing the work, right? If you have 50 blog posts or 50 podcast episodes or whatever it is, right? You already have done the work. It's easy enough well, not easy, but simple enough to compile it, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody who is starting to work on their mindset and, might be just joining you on the Mindset Mondays journey now?
Wow. It's the little acts, the little changes, the little steps that make the biggest difference over time. Right? So part of it is just patience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It'd be nice to flip a switch and have everything be different. But usually that comes from, I want to stop doing X. And you're operating against neuroscience when you start with that. So give an example, because weight loss is always an example that people can either understand because they've dealt with it or somebody close to them has.
Sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you say there's a big difference energetically between I want to lose weight and I want to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to lose weight usually involves some form of stopping some behavior. And most of the programs that are out there do a terrible job at replacing it. If you say, I want to stop using heroin, and you try to go cold turkey, we know how disastrous and often deadly that is.
Right.
That's why the primary treatment for it is replacement therapy. You
Mm-hmm.
replace it with something that's much less bad for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with mindset and behaviors, you replace a behavior or an activity that doesn't serve with one that does serve. So you replacing a behavior, replacing a mindset is incredibly powerful. So you play with, like, what are the unwritten rules and beliefs that you have, and what's an intention that you can lean towards instead to replace it. Anytime that you can give your brain something to replace the icky with, it's much easier than just saying, oh, I'm going to stop that.
Yeah.
98% of us are not wired to just stop things.
Right. And I love that you tied it back to the example of losing weight, right? Because that's something that everybody deals with or knows somebody, right? Or, it's an epidemic in this country, right? In this world these days. And, the billion-dollar industry that we've built, Weight Watchers and everything else, it's just, cut down, stop, stop eating put down the ice cream, put down this, put down that. Well, if we're that easy, we would have all done it already, right? So it's the same thing with mindset. You're pointing to something that there's really a neurological thing that happens when you say, I'm going to stop doing X.
Your brain says, no, you're not.
Right. Why? We're doing just fine.
I'm enjoying this.
So what's an effective thing that you see people replace, use replacement therapy with in mindset?
Well, let me shape that a different way, because
Mm-hmm.
one of the key things, and it's one of the chapters in the book, it's called words create worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So shifting your language is the first replacement area.
Mm.
So for instance, like what's something that you feel like you're not good at that you'd like to get better at?
Math.
Math. All right. Oh my God, that's perfect. Because when am I ever going to use algebra? How many of
Right.
us said that? But it's the difference in language between, oh my God, I suck at math, and up until now, I've sucked at math. The difference is our primitive brains are very simple. Fight,
Mm-hmm.
flight, freeze, fawn. There are very few things the primitive brain can do, and it has zero nuance, right? So when we use language that is binary, on, off, closed end, it's received as a truth. Then our emotional brain processes that, and our modern brain, the prefrontal cortex, has to layer language on top of it. But it all starts with that truth of I suck at math. When you say, up until now, I've sucked at math,
Mm-hmm.
that's opening up a possibility for the state being changeable. That's opening up possibility. Or, I'm not good at math yet.
Yeah.
Anything that opens up the possibility for shift or change, that's the first replacement place I always point people
Mm-hmm.
towards. Listen to the language you're using and replace it with one that serves forward motion. So much of our language is closed and fixed.
Mm-hmm.
That's why so many of our experiences are closed and fixed.
It's brilliant. And it's funny, I use that example because just yesterday I was talking to somebody and I was like, oh, I'm terrible at math. And the reason, and I still say it, but like, no, I can do my own taxes. I can, so actually, no, I'm not bad at math, right? But the language is so pervasive because I failed trigonometry in high school.
Yeah.
So, mindset can be really pervasive that way. So what you're saying is like on the basic level, change your language. I love it.
Immediately. I mean, that's one of the first quotes I play out in the book is one, well, Carl Jung gets credit for it, but it's actually from the Talmud. And it's, we do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are.
Yeah.
But we have control over that,
Mm-hmm.
right? We change our lens. We change the way we experience the world. So you change your lens, change the world. And that is the most powerful aspect of mindset work, of this book, of anything to do with mindset, is understanding that because you have control over the lenses you use, you have control over your experience of the world,
Mm-hmm.
even during a pandemic.
Yeah. Speaking of the pandemic, how has this year changed how you live your life, how your business?
Well, first, in terms of the book was supposed to come out in February. It's supposed to
Oh
come
my
out
gosh.
on Groundhog Day.
Wow.
The publisher I was working with at the time was a train wreck. Couldn't get anything done. So thankfully, because had this book come out at the beginning of February, it would have been lost in the
Mm.
fray, right? The world locked down 4 weeks later and boom,
Yeah.
book's gone. But because I took it from that publisher and Jody and I went through the process of self-publishing it. Jody was a huge help in going through self-publishing. When this thing landed in September, it was so beautifully timed for what people were going through. We passed that initial panic of holy crap, everything's crazy, and people were starting to create their new abnormal.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe the second or third round of their new abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was received much better than it would have been in the, what did we know, February,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
But for me, so, a heavy focus on the book. My wife released a book the same day. So we did sort of a pair launch. Crazy. But that was fun because we had that, right? We had that to focus on. We got the surprise of two of our kids coming home and we got to live with them for several months. And it was, it was incredibly enjoyable. We had our middleest had just graduated from college or did so from our front yard. But we had a chance to spend a lot of much more dedicated family time than we normally would have had. We didn't travel, so we were
Yeah.
here for 8 months,
Mm-hmm.
and we were also preparing for the wedding of our eldest child. just had a couple weeks ago in California.
Oh, congratulations. Wow.
So for us, it gave us a chance to slow down and focus. My clients, my clients span 15 time zones. I don't travel to see clients. I do most of that from here.
Hmm.
So for me, the work part didn't change.
Yeah,
What my clients were focusing on changed a lot.
sure.
Yeah, it was the first couple months, it was them talking themselves off the ledge. And then it became, how are we going to innovate or reinvent or re-engineer what we do to take advantage of this time? So it got
That's so cool.
very
Yeah.
positive by April.
Hmm.
No less freaking out, but the attention was turned towards, what are we going to create?
Yeah.
Focusing on what blew up, because what you put your attention on expands.
Hmm.
My clients were turning their attention to, what do we want to create through this and after this? So
I
that's
love
been a
that.
blast.
Yeah, and I've found, exactly what you're saying, that especially earlier in the pandemic, and even so to a degree now, there have been some people doing really amazing things because they're in a pressure cooker right now, and it a lot of it comes back to what you're saying, right? The language you use, the way you think about things, you can create something really beautiful even during this time.
Well, I started coaching in 2008 and 9, which was right in the middle of our fiscal readjustment that we had.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating because I had a ringside seat watching companies they're those that went into trench mode and contracted as much as they could and had a very survivalist Lord of the Flies mentality to hanging on.
Hmm.
They didn't make it.
Yeah.
Not very many of
Yep.
them made it through those 2 years. The
Hmm.
companies that immediately turned their eye on reinvent, reinvigorate, reimagine, those are the companies that made it through. Even if they had to scale back the same amount, their eye was on something different.
Yep.
When you're looking towards thriving instead of surviving, it doesn't mean you're any less attentive to what needs to be done, but you're doing it with an eye towards what you will be on the other side, not how the hell are we going to get through this.
Hmm.
That energy is completely different.
Yeah, and I'm finding it too, that the people that are surviving or thriving during this time are focused on the other side, right? They're saying like, okay, well, we're adapting, right? That was then, this is now. I had a call with somebody shortly after the pandemic started who did all their coaching in person and
Mm-hmm.
just refused to go on Zoom. Absolutely refused. And,
Oops.
and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
well then you're sorry. You're what's going to happen to your business, and of course we didn't know how long this was going to last, and so I don't know what they're doing now, but
Oh, I'd be super curious.
yeah, I know, I'm like, oh, I wonder.
Hmm.
I haven't thought about them in a while, but exactly what you're saying, no eye on the future. So
I keep looking at these lovely chairs I have in my office where I sit with clients when they're in town or the ones that are here in Atlanta. And I'm like, there's dust. It's been a really long time since humans have been here.
yeah. Yeah, and it's funny. So the live chat thing is unfortunately I can't see it through Restream because we had that technical glitch. But I'm looking on LinkedIn, and Tony Martignetti
Hi,
shared
Tony.
our post. So I wanted to give him a shout out as well because that's another person that we both know.
It's one of our
So
Boston connections.
yeah, exactly. So thanks for watching and welcome. And we shared some good words about you before we went live.
Your
So.
ears were burning, I hope.
so so what was the book launch like? And you said you did a pair launch, which is awesome, and I'm a little jealous because it sounds a little crazy.
It was a lot of crazy. It was fun though. It's like having both of us touch not just our professional communities, but our overlap personal.
Hmm.
So we got to play a lot.
Yeah.
Look, I work with entrepreneurs and senior executives, and there's, particularly in the former, a really high incidence of ADHD.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs and EMT docs, EMT and emergency room docs have very high incidence of ADHD. Elaine's entire business is working with parents of kids with complex needs. So our audiences overlap a lot.
Wow.
And it's similar work, just wildly different groups. So it was fun to see how many people leaned in and were interested in both books. And we did some cool joint appearances. So it was great because it kept our energy focused and fun. Because the details related to a book launch are crazy. And yeah, there's lots of moving parts and you know, thankful that I had a lot of help because that's not something that my ADD would have done well managing all the details alone.
Yeah. So why do you think that is? That's a really interesting thing that a lot of entrepreneurs have ADHD.
You want the funny answer or the real answer?
Both.
So I think we were really good at getting fired and became crappy employees, so we had to work for ourselves. I'm not sure if that's the funny one or the true one. I think it might be both. No, it's the, if you look at Colby, it's high and quick start. If you look at Enneagram, we have lots of sevens. There are a lot of entrepreneurs are looking to move more quickly than corporate environments normally allow. You do see, we call them intrapreneurs. You see people that run groups within organizations that are super nimble. They're like a funded startup. And we used to call a lot of them skunk works. But you see the entrepreneurial endeavors inside corporate, but entrepreneurs, we're a different breed. We're comfortable with more risk. We're comfortable with a lot more not knowing. And that's sometimes completely antithetical to a corporate culture.
Yeah.
So those who thrive there don't always thrive here and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how true is that, right?
And ADD folk don't like to do things that involve process or systems left to their own devices. Even though those are the very things we need to thrive, we tend to resist that. And doing it my own way, or don't tell me I already know, doesn't do well in a corporate environment either.
That's wow. That's something I never thought about. So that's awesome. Thank you for that. So I didn't ask this. What's your wife's book title?
The Essential Guide to Raising Complex Kids.
Okay.
And complex kids are the ones with ADD, anxiety, learning disabilities, a mix of many, etc. So
awesome. So pick up that one and also pick up my Mindset Mondays. I'm guessing Amazon is the place to get them.
It's all over Amazon. And you can go to mindsetmondayswithdtk.com and learn more about the book, download the Rewire framework, and link to Amazon.
Awesome. What should I have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Oh, only questions that would have been dangerous. I love that you start off with, how do you take your coffee?
Thank you. I love that question because even people who don't drink coffee, right, their morning routine, it's all about the morning routine, right? It's all about how you start your day. So I love that little question. It's like a little peek into the personal and also into like what's your morning like. So
it's a guy out in California who does tea with Curtis. It's Michael's last name, and he said anytime he had anybody from any of the British colonies on the call, there was always the battle of milk or no milk, lemon or no lemon, and it was a serious discussion. I was like, okay,
yep.
A little lighter about coffee.
Yeah, I mean, so before the pandemic, I was going to coffee shops almost every day because it was important for me to get out, and I found that was one of the things that I really missed. So it's become a really important, even more important part of my morning to drink coffee because that's like the semblance of normalcy for me.
Some normalcy.
Exactly.
I miss what Elaine and I did a lot of travel for work, but it was usually for events, and whether it was our learning or working with our coach. And what I loved about that was being in the same room with people. Right? What happens when your mirror neurons fire? It's different when you're on Zoom.
Right.
Right. And even if it's every morning you're at a coffee shop, you've got a group of folks you hang with, it's still not the same.
Right. Right, exactly. So it's been an interesting time. But what type of folks do you like to work with as well?
The overcalibrated, Right. My favorite folks to work with. And the reason I say that my favorite way to talk about my work is reintroducing successful entrepreneurs and senior executives to their families speaks to exactly that. It's working with the folks that are overcalibrated, driven, alive. They want to do, but they've overcalibrated towards doing. And they've sort of lost a little connection with the being aspect. And half my clients don't have kids or families, but they understand the concept of being reintroduced to what's important to them.
Mm.
I did it. I got over calibrated towards work and started losing connection with what was real.
Yeah.
Work is an agreed upon fiction. Family and connection and community, that's real.
Yeah.
So the better we connect with ourselves and with those things and people that are important to us, the better we are at work anyway. So leaning into the human being side is how we get better at human doing.
Yeah.
So those are the folks that I love to work with.
I think I'm going to write that on a Post-it note and put it on my computer. Work is an agreed upon fiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a book called Sapiens. You'll love it.
yeah.
Yuval Harari talks about everything. Companies and countries are agreed upon fictions. Well, guess what?
Those work.
At large is an agreed upon fiction.
Yeah, yeah.
This is real.
Right, right. Oh my gosh, as coming from a certified workaholic, you just broke my brain, I think. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
How can people get in touch with you?
Oh, come to Mindset Mondays with DTK.com. You'll also see a way to contact me at the very top, because that's also on my website, which is dtkcoaching.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me. I needed another cup of coffee.
And thank you for your patience as we figured out the Mercury retrograde.
Technology is great when it works.
So for those of you watching now, and for those of you watching later, post your questions, post your thoughts, anything that comes to mind. We'll see them, tag us and let us know, and get the book Mindset Mondays and listen to the podcast. Thank you as always for everybody who's here. For those of you who are watching, for those of you who we've shouted out and everything like that. This is Coffee with Entrepreneurs Live, and I am signing off.